72. That was the number of text messages I woke up to this morning. I wish I could recall what they said, but I didn't really read past the first 5. It was some gibberish about loving me, and then hating me, and then wanting me back. Messages in rapid succession firing throughout the night. Messages in cycles, just like so many other things we're taught to deal with. Life, death, money, and pain. Everything important to us comes in waves. I delete the manic bunch of texts from my phone and subsequently my mind. I try my best to go on with my day, messages continuing to vibrate like landmines with every moment's peace I manage to find. I do not dare block his number. No, I tried that last week. He always seems to find a way to reach me, whether it be through creating new accounts on social media, messaging my family and friends, or digging up my old profiles from middle school. He has proven that he will stop at nothing to find me. Ever since I initiated our break a month ago and requested that we stop speaking to one another, he's only further validated my point that boundaries were never a concern of his. My own desires were never a concern of his while I was under his ownership. However, now that I've decided to loosen the noose around my throat and step back for a bit, he's taken on this sickly sweet demeanor. Whenever he has my attention, he promises me things. Vacations, dates, new experiences. He attempts to lure me with breadcrumbs back into the oven. When I turn my back, he changes again. Suddenly, the charming and sincere young man becomes a volcano of emotion. He attempts to harm me with the kind of shrapnel and debris that can only come from a pompous man not getting what he desires. He is a man who would sink as low as to offer me the love he could never be bothered to give me while I was under his thumb. I can't even fathom how he was surprised when he realized that the bare minimum would no longer work on the girl he thought that he had trained so well. He thought that I was one of Pavlov's dogs. He was a shapeshifter. It was disgusting. If only he were good at it. No, now I see that my conception of this threatening volcano was warped. This man-child was never anything but a sniveling baby, sitting in the corner because he refused to give up his toys. The smoke and mirrors can only last for so long before the plumes dissipate. Unfortunately, the only flaw he was never able to keep hidden was the truth. The year is 2021. I am 18 years old, and I am about to leave my long-term abusive relationship. My high school years weren't the best. If you haven't already been able to tell by my weird-ass demeanor and interests, my brand didn't really jive well with the other kids. This certain type of loneliness left me vulnerable, and abuse loves to strike when your guard is left down. Someone I once thought was the love of my life spent 4 years carefully molding me into a girl who was incapable of fighting back. I became subservient, cooking, cleaning, driving, and tending to this man's every beck and call. If I didn't, rest assured there'd be hell to pay. Every denied request was met with a twisted arm and an iron grip. The manipulation was laid so thick that I didn't even know what reality was anymore. I just had to hope that his version of events were correct that day. I felt like a bird in a cage, only seen and used when convenient and discarded promptly afterwards. My needs and cries for help were met with apathy and brushed aside. His friends would tell him I was ugly and needed to control his bitch, and he never once corrected them. He would hide things from me and refuse to talk about any problems in our relationship. Every time I'd try to have an honest heart-to-heart, he would turn it all back on me, calling me needy and high maintenance for simply wanting to be more than just a body in his bed. On the topic of bodies, he seemed to hate mine despite desperately clinging to it. He called me worthless for getting a tattoo, saying it diminished my value as a woman. He threatened to break up with me when I attempted to express myself by dyeing my hair blue. He wanted me to stay exactly as he liked and never venture to anything else. Every time I would work up the nerve to try and leave, he would put up a fight unrivaled to anything I've ever seen before or since. To this day, I've never heard a scream that desperate or loud. I've never heard a man plea for his life, but I can imagine that the sounds he produced at any inkling of my departure were similar. Guilt-tripping, smothering, and even multiple direct threats to harm or end his own life were lobbied against me. Like so many other things in our relationship, he knew how to wear me down. The conversation would turn quickly from one where I finally took a stand against the abuse to one where I coddled a grown man because it hurt his feelings to be held accountable. Every grab, pull, shove, and defilement was met only with his tears, not mine. His crocodile tears, forcing me to once again assume the role of mother, comforting him because of something he did. One day, though, something finally gave. I started college in the fall of 2021 at a school 3 hours away from my first love and now ex-boyfriend. Though the trauma bond convinced me otherwise at the time, this was a blessing in disguise. Despite his best efforts, he was not able to convince me to go to his school, and although I was still driving a 6-hour round trip every weekend to go visit him, I had a newfound freedom. I started to slowly realize something was seriously wrong. See, despite my multiple attempts to leave in the past, I was still under the impression that this relationship was normal. It was my first love, after all. I didn't really know any different. However, as I began to witness and engage with new perspectives and relationship dynamics at school, I observed that my own was terribly unhealthy. Then, the night of October 22nd happened. It was the night of my first opera performance ever. I worked myself ragged on this show and was so excited for people to view it. He came to go see it and stayed the night with me afterward. I won't go into detail on the happenings of that night, just know that it still haunts my dreams to this day. I was utterly broken and turned to escapism to distract myself from the ever-present nausea provided by my emotional state. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin, but all I could do was listen to music. That's when a song came into my recommended section on YouTube. This song was called Misery Meat by Soudikken, and it changed my trajectory.
You want a taste of my brain? Okay, it's yours anyway. A bite of my eye. Alright, I won't put up a fight. How about today? You try eating someone else for a change. Because the way things are going, I won't last another day.
It sounded like the song was speaking directly to me. The flat, cut-and-dry lyrics and tone mirrored my own emotional fatigue perfectly. I knew what Soudikken was saying. I, too, felt like nothing more than a morsel on a cutting board, my ex taking more and more of me each day, remorseless and expecting me just to be okay with it all. He didn't care about how I felt. He told me he wanted me to just forget about everything he's done to me and move on to save his relationship. His happiness and convenience was all that ever mattered. I was a means to an end, a slab of meat to be consumed and discarded. He was a disgusting creature, a beast who just wanted to be fed. And it started to dawn on me as the second half of the song unraveled.
One thing that you never hear me say is that I'm tired of living. Funny thing the state may change today. Good thing that I'm forgiving.
That was just it. I was going to die like this if I didn't get the fuck out. He was talking about plans of engagement, marriage, even kids. These were all things I dreaded more than anything. He wanted to trap me forever and was going to fight like hell to do so. I needed to make like the gingerbread man and run as far and fast as I could if I ever wanted to see the sun rise again. I listened to Misery Meat on loop for hours that night, and for the days following, formulating my escape and stealing my nerves. Without this song, I don't think I would have left as fast as I did. I don't want to think about what may have happened if this song had never been recommended by the YouTube algorithm, but this song gave me perspective, and it also gave me strength. And I was going to need it, because little did I know, a man can still make one hell of a storm from 150 miles away.